Good morning. Yeah, we're running out of time in the semester. For better or for worse. Was looking at something, I don't know, earlier this week, let's just say. I don't remember exactly when it was. And thinking ahead, not just for lecture, but even for lab, about a week off. Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure it was something meaningful that we did. But, so I'm not sure that we're going to get to all content, but we are going to finish what we started with regard to the weathering and erosion and sediments and whatnot. We just might not get to groundwater. So, like I said, I'm not sure what I did different this semester, but so it is. As for lab, we'll take care of that when we get there. But we'll probably just jump straight to an experiment or a data analysis thing. We'll see which one we do. And you folks at home, it might be slightly different than what we do here on campus. But like you guys will definitely do data analysis. But either of them end up in a lab report. So it's tomatoes kind of thing. The end result is you need to write a lab report. It's just what we do to earn that lab report. But back to lecture for a moment. All right, here we are as this red dot up here, and it looks, like many, many, many weeks to go. Last day of classes is a Friday this semester, which is really strange for MP. We hardly ever do that. Since we have lecture on Tuesdays and Thursdays, well, we got 1, 2, and then, of course, we don't have Wednesday or Thursday or Friday next week, Thanksgiving break, right? Nothing like putting a nice, big, relaxing break right before the end of the semester. There's actually some logic to that. Would have been nice to have one a little earlier in the semester, though. So 1, 2, then we come back, 3, 4, 5 classes, and then we told you on day 1, lecture test number 4, would be the last day of lecture, so that's the 11th. So we got, what did I just count, 5? We got 5 lectures left. Don't forget, you guys do have a cumulative or comprehensive, whatever word you like, final. That is during finals week. That's why we call them finals. I know some of my colleagues don't adhere to that, and they should be shackled up and something else. I don't know. Nothing too horrible, but finals are for finals week. That's why we have finals week, and we barely have finals week left. We have like 3 days of finals week. It's been a while, but still.
And the finals on the 17th or something?
It'd be the first Tuesday. So 16th it looks like, yeah. Yeah, I try to keep it on the same dates and times. That way you guys with work and whatever, nobody has to change their schedule to take a silly little final. The one difference for you guys here on campus at any rate is the way they schedule the final blocks. It runs 8 to 11. I'll talk with you guys. If somebody has a final coming up, right at 11:30 or something like that. I forget when the next block is. But I think we could get here at 9 instead of 8. Y'all are fine with that? Gives you 2 hours to take the test. But yeah, that's really the only difference. We'll be showing up a half hour early. And I guess you could still show up at 9:30 if you want to. But it will be scheduled. It is scheduled if you've looked at the exam schedule. I'm pretty sure we're in the 8 to 11 block. It's usually double a normal test, so anywhere from 1 to 120. Yeah.
Is that all going to be multiple choice, like
Yeah, especially with the time constraints of during finals. And we will have you guys have been wanting study guides and whatever for a while now, and I keep saying, it's your PowerPoints. But this one we do have a short one. Just to narrow stuff down for you guys a little bit because it's been, a lot of stuff. I don't write any new questions, so you won't get anything unseen on the test. But we'll narrow down the topics, and it's, I'd like to think it's a little helpful at least. But that will not be released until we complete the last test. So I don't want you guys fretting about the final until you're done with the tests first. So, So yeah, so 5 classes left, and we'll lecture through what we can get through. I'm not going to rush or say, okay, I can't cover this, but you guys need to still learn it. I don't do that crap. Okay, what we get to, and that's one of the benefits that we have of being a nice little closed community here. You don't have a different lab teacher or lecture teacher. It's all just me, again, for better or for worse. We can do whatever we want. No, we can't do that, of course. But if we don't get to something, it's certainly not the end of the world. Hopefully, your life will never come down to groundwater knowledge or naming stream parts. Okay. Hey, you found someone in the hallway. Good job. All right. So, I had a lecture up. Where'd it go? Yes, that is the recorder. There's what I wanted. All right.
So we're not going to finish the last part of that last lecture?
I have no idea. Huh? We'll get to ground. If we get to ground. Oh, did I not finish?
Yeah, you left off at 2 examples of chemical weather.
Oh, hell's bells. Okay, thank you. I thought we finished that.
No, you said this was a convenient place to stop.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Fine. Not that I'm in a rush. I said we were in a rush, right?
Put me on the test.
Well, yeah. You got the PowerPoints in your hand. What more do you need?
Lecture. Your knowledge, wise.
Ah, yes. Wise sage that I am. All right. So, 2 exam. Did we talk about the 2 exam? Yeah, we did talk about that. All right. So, a few minutes on erosion, which is the movement of sediments. Blows, flows, and plucks. Okay? Learn it, live it, love it. So, we talked about the agents of weathering a little while ago, and we talked about how things can be broken down. And you guys quite understandably, mixed up the idea here about weathering and erosion. They are, I don't want to say incredibly similar, but they happen at the same time. Just a reminder there that they're the same agents that do it. They do both. So it's very easy to mix that up. So just a couple examples of how, again, erosion is movement. Okay. So the wind blows things. I guess we could have a much more complicated definition if you want to, but that is pretty straightforward. The water flows things. And, I like alliteration and or things that rhyme. So we haven't talked about ice and gravity too much. We focused on wind and water, because those are 2 very, very obvious things that are very easy to see. Glaciers, we all probably have some sort of mental image of a glacier, but we're not going to get to glaciers this semester either. But you've never seen one, more than likely. You've never seen one doing its thing. So, in landslides, again, hopefully you've not been nearby a landslide. With one obvious exception, and he's not here today, I don't think. He was hiking in a place that had a landslide the week before. Good thing he wasn't there then. We talk about wind and water a lot, again, because that's something you've seen happen. All got dust in your eye. You've all seen something floating down a stream. All right? You've all picked up a rounded rock, hopefully, at a shoreline or in a stream, so on and so forth. All right, anywho. So glaciers do something called plucking. You could picture I know The Blob is a really old movie, but I think it still has some iconography out there in the world, but this giant thing of Jell-O just sort of flowing over a city, and it slurps up stuff as as it rolls over it. That's kind of what glaciers do, okay? Now, glaciers do a hell of a lot of weathering too. They carve valleys, they do amazing things, but this isn't about weathering. We're onto erosion. So in order to erode, they have to pluck it. I don't know why they chose that word. I guess it is like plucking. And then they flow as well. Landslides, stuff falls. All right? So we kind of fall apart with the, no pun intended there, fall apart with the rhyming stuff. Downslope movement due to gravity. And the odd thing about gravity, it does need some sort of catalyst, for lack of a better word. Things, you know, as long as they're stable, they're not going to move downslope due to gravity. Something else happens, they become unstable, and then, of course, they can move to the next stable location. But try not to worry about those complex thoughts right now. So just a bit of reminder, okay, if you hadn't picked up on it already, we've been talking about sediments since sedimentary rock. Just want to reiterate that weathering produces sediments, erosion transports sediments, and as I said, just in case you missed that first one, sedimentary rocks are made of sediments. All right? And I don't have a slide for it next, but I just want to put in one more plug. Don't forget about chemical sedimentary rocks, okay? Because weathering and erosion does still work with them. Things get dissolved. That water goes somewhere else, downstream, through your aquifer or whatever. That's movement. That's transportation. That rust stain that happens in your sink or your toilet or your bathtub, that rust was dissolved in a sandstone rock somewhere else and deposited right there. That's erosion. So, still happens with sedimentaries as well. All right, we talked about rounding a little bit. This is a great example of them working together. All right. We told you that rounding came from abrasion, which was rock against rock breakdown. Mother Nature was the first rock tumbler, okay? Waves rolling back and forth, endless, ceaseless. They don't get a vacation, okay? 24/7, 365, literally. So those rocks are just rolling, rolling, rolling. Same thing with streams, rock banging downstream. There's a little more to get hung up on in a stream bed than in a shoreline. But same processes. We told you that those angular edges are removed, the sharp bits, because they're by nature just a little thinner, so they're that much more likely to break first. But it's this first bullet here that's really the new part. All right? During erosion, further weathering can occur. That weathering wouldn't have happened, that rounding wouldn't have happened if it weren't moving. It's that simple. So that's the only connection. It's not a huge one, but it's a connection that needs to be realized. And then we acknowledge those like 7 people out there in the world that care whether it's a breccia or a conglomerate, other than Geology 101 students on test day. All right. Because you can infer something about the rock as to whether the fragments are angular or rounded. You could look at the past environments, or how far they are from their origin site, so on and so forth. So, but then you have to think about hardness of the rock and so on and so forth. Like the cherts, we had a brecciated chert in lab. Chert's harder than heck, right? You guys know that. So if you're looking at angular pieces of chert, well, then that's different than looking at angular pieces of, I don't know, mudstones or something soft, okay? So, but that's their job to worry about that stuff. That's not for you to worry about. Yes, the next PowerPoint would not have made much sense because it's about deposits if we hadn't reminded you guys what a deposit is. And not like you've never gone to the bank, but it's basically the same idea. This time we're going to the stream bank. Yeah, anyhow. So as erosion ends, deposition occurs, okay? Deposition is just absence of movement. And there's sort of permanent deposition, if you would, and temporary deposition. And again, we don't really need to talk too much about that, but you know, something could get lodged somewhere for a little while. Again, think of a stream bed. It's really easy to get caught up on a bigger rock until finally you break free and you roll down the stream a little more, right? But we're talking about mass piles of sediment building up. And again, if you've been to a stream and you stood on the bank, just the side of the stream, more than likely you were on some sort of a deposit, especially if you were on the inside of a turn, okay, and inside on the bend of a stream. Deposits happen there a lot. We were just talking about the gravel under your barn the other day, okay. As a stream goes around a bend, see, I got to squeeze the stuff in now because we're not going to get the streams. As it goes around a bend, the inside bend of the stream flows a little slower than the outside does, all right? And because movement, erosion is a function of velocity, again, we probably won't get to. Oh, it's right there, controlled by the velocity of the erosional agent. Good, this is timely, actually. Because what's being moved is a function of how fast it's moving. Just real quick primer. Okay, the more energy, the faster it's moving, the bigger stuff it can move, and or the more stuff it can move, because there's more power to work there. As it slows down, less energy, well, it's going to carry either smaller stuff and or less stuff. So that's why deposits happen. Or the wind, very simple example, the wind stops blowing, right? So, at any rate, there is a much more involved, well, let's see. Yeah, we're going to talk about it right now. There's a much more involved conversation, but I don't think we're having it today. Yes, we are. Just for one slide, though. So I basically just told you this. This is sorting, but under the guise of deposition, it fits very nicely. Take one half step back, like we just did, and we're in erosion at the moment. Stuff is being moved. And as I said, I saw a lot of you blinking like, wait a minute, what the hell is he talking about now? It's here on a slide, so now we're all good. The faster something is moving, the more and or the bigger stuff it can move. Think of a big semi versus a little Volkswagen or something. Okay? More energy, more work. So the opposite works when you're going to lose energy. As things begin to slow down, they cannot carry what they previously were carrying. That's deposition. Now, because math, it happens in an order. What do you think gets dropped out first? It's on here, but some of you are just staring into space. Maybe you're not reading it. What gets dropped first, the littlest stuff or the biggest stuff?
The biggest.
The biggest stuff. How come? Because it's the biggest stuff. Yeah, exactly. So, as it slows down even more, then the next smallest stuff, then the next smallest stuff, then the next. And eventually, that stream or that breeze is only carrying the lightest stuff. And when that stops, boom, but what you've just done is sorted out all of your sediment into a deposit. You've made sandstone and you've made mudstone, let's just say, next to one another. And like I said, that's really important for where we're headed, because we're going to head into looking at deposits, looking at rocks, and inferring where they came from. As close to application as we get in here. We don't go up too far up Bloom's taxonomy very often. So, at any rate, just to recap, deposition is the end of erosion, all right? And oftentimes, that ends in sorting. Now, if you're just falling off a cliff, no. Everything falls at the same rate, so to speak. Not exactly, but Close enough. All right. So you get unsorted. And again, that tells these people something. If they find an unsorted deposit, they're like, oh, this must have been from mass wasting, which is stuff falling off a cliff. So these people can read into that. These people. See, I've been talking about these people the whole semester. Turns out I'm one of those people. But at any rate, so sorting. Any questions about how sorting works? Pretty straightforward. So once it's deposited, a couple things could happen. It can undergo lithification and become a rock. Or it can get enriched with nutrients and become a soil. Now this is a nice segue for when I put weathering and erosion before sedimentary rocks. We say, and we're going to take one of those roads now and talk about sedimentary rocks. And later in the semester, we get a chance, we'll talk about soils. But since we've already done sedimentary rocks and we're not going to get to soils, I hardly ever get to soils. I'm going to say, and now we're going to look at those layers of sediment and we're going to talk about what we can learn from them. All right? Once they've become lithified. So, I am going to stop this slide since it is technically weathering part 2.